Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Krame Center for Mindful Living. And welcome back to those of you who are a regular part of our mindfulness community and meditation group. And a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. So just a little bit about us. We are a global nonprofit organization whose mission is to make the benefits of mindfulness, self-compassion, and positive psychology accessible to all. Our goal is to help people become more resilient and live better lives through our various programs. We offer affordable pricing, and we also offer scholarships as well as these free weekly meditations. And our current theme is living with an open heart. And this week's theme is asking empowering questions. So last week we explored optimism versus pessimism as the way in which we explain our experience. And we saw how we can choose to be optimistic. And so having greater optimism really allows us to reframe our experience when we ask more empowering questions. So when we ask inspiring and optimistic questions, we get inspiring and more optimistic answers. Because when you really think about it, the questions that we ask ourselves create the running narrative in our mind. Asking an empowering question such as, what did I do well today? Or what am I grateful for? Will increase positive feelings. And when you start asking different questions, you get different answers. So shifting from disempowering to empowering questions really changes the thoughts moving through our mind and moves us into more positive thinking. Because asking empowering questions allows us to reframe how we view a situation, right? It allows us to change our perspective, which can significantly impact the outcome of our experience. If after a disappointment, we ask ourselves negative questions like, what's wrong with me? Why did I do that? Why does this always happen to me? Well, then our mind is going to search for answers to those questions. And believe me when I tell you, we will find an answer to those negative questions. And at this point, or in this moment, you might sheepishly be thinking, yikes, that's me. But really know that you are in good company. For most of us, the initial reaction is a negative one because as humans, we were wired to seek out threats in our environment for the very survival of our species. But the good news is that we can rewire our automatic responses, but it takes awareness, it takes intention, excuse me, it takes intention and practice. So the next time your initial reaction is a disempowering one that focuses on what went wrong, what can go wrong, well, just pause for a moment and think about how you can change the narrative from a negative one to a positive one. If instead we ask empowering questions like, how can I use this as a learning experience? How can I grow from this? Or how can I make this really great rather than begrudgingly settling for a disappointing outcome? And when we ask these positive questions, we will get a whole host of different answers, right? So remember, when we ask inspiring questions, we get inspiring answers. The questions that we create, when you really think about it, the questions we ask rather create our reality and how we experience life. So de Covert says, it's not the answer that enlightens, but the question. So in this meditation, we're going to explore how asking empowering questions allows us to reframe our perspective and change our experience. And we will see how asking empowering questions can change the narrative and ultimately change the outcome. So we're going to now be moving into the more formal part of our practice. We're going to begin our meditation. So just take a moment to feel free to adjust your posture and make yourself as comfortable as possible, even laying down if that feels right for you and supportive for you in this moment. Perhaps giving a little stretch to the neck and inviting a little bit of ease into the shoulders, maybe bringing the shoulders up to the ears and then just letting them drop. And then if it feels right for you, closing your eyes or even just softening the gaze. But if you're going to close your eyes, please do so now. And then just taking a nice slow inhalation and exhalation. And beginning to allow yourself to settle into this moment. And doing that by perhaps inviting a sense of arrival. Arriving in this space, maybe you were rushing to get here or simply moving from one room to another, but allowing yourself that sense of arriving in the space that you're in. And then now allowing yourself to arrive in the chair that you're sitting in. So really knowing that you're sitting here, feeling your body seated in the chair. And then maybe using contact points like feet on the floor, sits bones in the chair, your hands wherever they are resting. Using those contact points as a way to further ground into the body, into the moment. And perhaps allowing yourself to soften into the seat of the chair. Feeling the support of the chair and even of your own body. Maybe even having a moment of gratitude for the support of our own body, day in and day out. And then also feeling the support of the floor beneath your feet and the earth below that. And just taking a moment to notice, maybe scanning the body and just noticing if there are any areas of tension. Just taking note, not necessarily needing to change anything, but just noticing. And then as you're noticing any areas of tension, if it feels right, the invitation is to invite a softening. Or perhaps easing tension in the shoulders or the neck by just inviting a softening, breathing into the area allowing yourself to unclench your jaw if your jaw is tense or clenched. Maybe letting the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. And then maybe just inviting a softening across the forehead. Sometimes we furrow the brow, inviting an ease into the facial muscles. And by now, your mind may have wandered, but that's okay. Just gently bringing the mind back, releasing any thoughts your mind may have wandered off with. And now, as you're ready, turning your awareness to the breath. Just bringing your full attention to the simple act of breathing. Noticing how your body breathes you without needing to do a single thing. Just staying with the breath, riding the wave of your own breath cycle. Not needing to change it in any way, but perhaps just noticing the qualities of the breath. Is it easy or labored? Shallow or deep? And whenever the mind wanders away, just gently acknowledging that it has wandered away, but guiding it back to the breath. Just being with the breath like you would a good friend, steady companion. Allowing the breath to be the anchor into the body and into this moment, the only moment that we really have. This one. And now this one. One breath at a time. Breath after breath. Moment by moment. And now, as you're ready, expanding the awareness to incorporate your whole body breathing. So just feeling the breath sweeping in and out of the entire body. And just noticing what that is like in this moment. Perhaps feeling the gentle rocking motion of the body as you're breathing. Just sweeping in and out of the body from head to toe and toe to head. And now, in this broadened awareness, the invitation is to call to mind a recent disappointment, difficulty, or perceived failure. But choosing one that has already been resolved and remembering not to choose something too difficult. So, not the mother of all disappointments, but choosing one. And perhaps a few things have bubbled up, settling on one. For example, what if you broke your leg and it's challenging to get out of the house? Now, rather than asking yourself, how could I let this happen? You can ask yourself, how can I use this extra quiet time more effectively and enjoyably? And then maybe you recognize that you never have time to read, but have a stack of books next to your nightstand and you can finally enjoy them. Or maybe you were up for a performance review and you received overwhelming positive feedback, except for one area that needed improvement. Instead of your normal reaction of, what's wrong with me? How could I not have seen that? What if you asked, how can I grow from this? Or how can I be grateful for all the positive remarks and not focus on just the one negative? So, as you're settling on one instance of a disappointment or perceived failure, now recalling as many details about it as you can remember. What happened? Where were you? Who was there? Calling to mind as many details or any other details that come to mind. And now think about, what was your reaction? How did you approach this? What kinds of questions did you ask? What was your internal dialogue? What were the questions you were asking yourself? Were they negative, disempowering questions? Or were they positive questions that produced creative solutions? So just thinking about the approach that you took. And now thinking about what are some questions you could have asked yourself? And just considering how the questions that we ask ourselves can shift our perspective on the situation and then change the outcome. So, what are some of the questions that you could have asked in that moment, in that situation, to produce a different result? Now, as you're ready, just releasing this practice and returning your awareness to the breath, just back to following the rhythm of your own breath cycle moment by moment, following one breath in and one breath out. Another breath in and another one out. And now just resting in your own experience just as it is and just as you are. And just perhaps allowing the eyes to remain closed as I finish with this poem. Thinking by Walter Wintle. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win, but you think you can't, it is almost a cinch that you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For out of the world we find, success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But sooner or later, the man who wins is the one who thinks he can. And now just beginning to wiggle fingers and toes, gently opening your eyes if they were closed. And then just taking a moment to reorient yourself to the space that you're sitting in before coming back to the screen. And then perhaps giving yourself a nice little stretch, whether you're stretching your neck or doing a neck roll. First in one direction, then the other. Maybe stretching the arms up. And thank you everyone for your practice. As always, I have a weekly invitation for you. And so the invitation for this week is to focus on the questions that you ask yourself, right? That you typically ask yourself, and just take note of your automatic inclination. Is it to ask negative, self-limiting questions? Or is it positive, solution-based, and empowering questions that you ask yourself? So just bringing an awareness to the questions that we ask ourselves, well, that's the first step in changing our inner narrative, right? So the next time that you're faced with what you consider an undesirable situation or perceived disappointment or failure, pause and notice the questions that you initially ask. If they aren't positive or empowering, choose to ask yourself different questions that are empowering. And then begin to practice this throughout the week and just see what happens, right? Perhaps things begin to shift. And then finally, I have just one announcement. We have a couple of spots, 2 spots left in our 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction course starting this coming Saturday morning, February 12th, from 9:30 till noon every Saturday. And I highly encourage you, if you enjoy these meditations, I highly encourage you to consider taking this course as we delve very deeply into mindfulness and meditation and connect with other like-minded people. We're in a group where we discuss in small groups and large groups. So I really recommend taking this course. And I do hope that you all have a wonderful week, and we will see you. I hope we will see you next week for our meditation. Thank you all, and take good care. Bye-bye.